E no meio da noite, os piratas invadem a embarcação para roubar o tesouro do rei. Bastou ouvir um pouquinho de história para sua imaginação e criatividade terem espaço, né? Esse é um dos motivos pelos quais os livros são tão importantes para a nossa vida. Você sabia que neste ano o TikTok fez milhões de pessoas voltarem a ler? Um simples TikTok pode gerar um grande impacto. Descubra livros incríveis e muito mais no TikTok.
Tem um momento na carreira que precisamos dar um passo além. É hora de fazer uma pós-graduação. Só que muitas vezes o custo pesa no bolso, inviabilizando tudo. Com a pós-graduação do Senac, você não tem esse problema. Cursos com até 50% de desconto e muito mais tempo para pagar. TCC opcional, modelo flexível com aulas presenciais e online e alguns cursos com apenas 12 meses de duração. Não tem mais desculpa, hein? Saiba mais em sp.senac.br/pós-graduação.
Today on CityCast Madison. It's the Friday News Roundup, and this week I'm joined by CityCast Madison's Haley Sperling and Rob Thomas, plus special guest Madison 365's Nicholas Garten. There's community fallout around the ousting of former Sun Prairie East High School principal Renee Coleman from her role. Alder Charles Myadze was arrested for multiple violent offenses just days after Madison Common Council's vote to censure him for alleged misconduct. Madison moves to lower some speed limits to 20 miles per hour, and a holiday party on wheels may be coming to streets near you this weekend. It's Friday, December 13th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Hey, Madison, it's Bianca. Welcome to our Friday News Roundup, where we break down the biggest stories in our city and chat about the week that was. But first, before we dive in, I have to tell you something super important. Today is the final day of our year-end membership campaign. And yes, it's also the last chance to snag our exclusive CityCast Madison tote bag. Head to membership.citycast.fm to snag yours now. And Haley, aren't they awesome? This isn't just a regular tote. It's not even just this regular straightforward rectangle. It's got a bit of a wider opening, a little winged action. It's cute.
It's so cute. Yes, we've been talking about this tote bag all week, and it's great. And it's truly the perfect way to show off your love for local news and our beautiful city of Madison. And I will say, y'all, it is super rare for us to do any kind of merch. So be sure to hop on this offer while you can, because I cannot guarantee it in the future. But of course, even more important than the tote, because it's not just about the tote, your membership is what makes CityCast Madison and Madison Minutes possible.
Absolutely. Here's the deal, y'all. Local journalism, like what we do here at CityCast Madison, doesn't happen without support from listeners like you. Right, Rob?
That's so true. And I know, like a lot of people right now, the national news feels very big and amorphous and kind of sucking the life force out of you. So just know that we're here. I mean, we're going to connect you to what's happening here in Madison and here in your neighborhood block in ways that nobody else can. I mean, I know I'm paying a lot more attention to what's happening in Madison. Taking action starts at home, and you can do some good in your community by investing in CityCast Madison. So we can continue sharing these local stories and perspectives that help you live your daily life. And it's been so great this week because we're getting all these great feedback from new members who are telling us why CityCast Madison means so much to them. Like Amelia said, I moved to Madison in May 2024 and have been reading your newsletter from the beginning. I enjoy it a lot and I'm happy to help support it. So thank you, Amelia. That's really awesome to read. And then Barbara doesn't even live in Madison. She's out of town. And she wrote, our daughter has just moved to Madison. Getting your emails makes me feel closer to her. And now that I know what's going on in her new hometown, we can have informed discussions during our phone calls and visits. And that's great. I used to live in Denver, and I do the same thing with CityCast Denver. That's how I keep tabs on what's going on in my old city.
Oh, I love it. I love the parents. Like, that's awesome. Like, folks tuning in.
Absolutely.
And we've got some more names. We want to thank Jane, Mary, Doy, Dan, Vanessa, Tim, Stacy, Kim, and we got some more fun blurbs to read as well. Haley, you've got one.
Yes, I've got one from Emily B., who joined our membership program, and she said, I've been a listener since June, and I haven't missed an episode yet. I love the variety of information the show provides. I feel like I'm always learning something new, even though I've lived here for 25 years. It's such a good reminder of why I live here. I'm constantly referencing things I'm hearing on the show, and I've recommended and shared your podcast countless times in the last 6 months. And we have to give out a shout out to Emily herself, too, because she actually joined us on the podcast to talk about her Chapel Roan themed haunted yard experience back in October, Red Blood Supernova. So thank you, Emily. We love it. We love community supporting community. We love Chapel Roan. We love Halloween. There's so much goodness happening here.
So much goodness. And actually, another person who's been on the podcast, and we did not talk to them. They did this on their own.
On their own. 100% on their own.
We see you. Thank you, Emily. And we got one more to read from Andy Adams, who's been on the podcast. Thank you for joining us. He says, supporting local journalism is more important than ever, and every dollar counts. Rob's Madison Minutes newsletter is a must read for me each morning, and Bianca's podcast is a favorite. Thanks for doing what you do. Of course, a huge team effort across the board. We love being shouted out. We love that you guys love us, and we love you too. So if you're out there listening, will you join all of these wonderful folks who just became new members? If you've been thinking about joining, today is the day to do it. For as little as $8 a month or $80 a year, you'll not only support local journalism, but you'll also get that exclusive tote bag as a thank you gift. So don't wait. Head to membership.citycast.fm right now to become a member. All right, we are starting off our Friday News Roundup with the top story about fallout surrounding 2 investigations into the now former Sun Prairie East High School principal, Renee Coleman, and alleged offensive language that she used. Coleman was forced to resign in November because of these allegations of misconduct. And we wanted to hear from someone who's been reporting this on the story closely. So we're turning to Madison 365 reporter Nicholas Garten. Hi, Nick. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. We're really grateful to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, again, another serious story. We have really been wanting to understand this one better. So can you back up for us and tell us what happened here? Like, what were the allegations made against this principal?
The allegations came out of a complaint from an employee to the district's HR that in August, Renee Coleman, when she was principal at East, and other people who were members of her staff engaged in a lot of, what you would call like locker room banter, I think is probably the right tone, in a press box during a staff convocation that Sun Prairie was having. Some students were giving some performances, a dance performance, and Coleman was said or alleged to have said that they were, just referring to the kids in very offensive ways. Also, making lewd comments related to the heat. And when she was confronted, allegedly, according to the complaint, by another employee, I think it didn't go great because she's the principal, and the complaint alleges that she said that she can't be fired because she's Black, which we now know is not the case.
It's heavy. So sort of like offhanded conversation that probably shouldn't be at a school event was picked up and someone made a complaint. But yeah, it's a really tricky conversation. And we did want to ask about, the investigations and how they were handled, because you've seen some aspersions about that, about like, was this fair? Can you tell us about the school investigations and what the process looked like?
The school hired an outside firm from Milwaukee, a legal firm, to conduct the investigation. They spoke to all 9 people who were in the press box. And according to Coleman, they believed the 4 of the witnesses, 4 of the 9 witnesses, which is less than half, and said the rest, who were all women, were not credible, but that the 4 credible witnesses all turned out to be white men, according to Coleman, and the 5 women were the remaining witnesses. They were all discredited, including herself.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we've recently on the podcast talked about other investigations into workplace misconduct on the Common Council. It's on my mind about the process of discrediting witnesses, particularly after reading your story and knowing that the principal herself was discredited just from your story from slouching and not making eye contact. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. In the report, it said that she did not sit up straight or make eye contact with the investigators while they were talking to her.
Yeah, I would have thought that for someone to be a not credible witness, that they'd have to say something contradictory to, have some sort of falsehood shared versus just body language. But, I've heard frustrations around this process that there's possible double standard being put forward for the situation around the principal. Like, how has Coleman responded to the investigation and the process around fairness?
She called it a double standard. She said that the way that employees of color are treated in disciplinary matters is not consistent with how white employees are treated. She does not believe that Sun Prairie Area School District stands by its equity statement that it posts everywhere. And she does not believe that students of color who are sort of stuck up for or really connected with by staff of color benefit from that and are supported by the district.
And does she have any support? I saw a couple school board members resigned or stepped down.
Yeah, Alwyn Foster, one school board member, resigned in solidarity with Renee, and Lisa Goldsberry, a second school board member, both of whom are Black, resigned for sort of tangential reasons that had somewhat to do with Renee, but also other district-wide issues.
So what kind of a larger impact do you think this could possibly have on the school district?
Wow, Bianca, you're throwing me on the spot with that one. That is hard to say.
Yeah.
That's hard to say because the Sun Prairie Area School District has had myriad racial backlash and issues over the last decade, all of which you can read at Madison365.com. But I think that overall, the district seems to be very defensive and not really in a mode where they're able to hear and listen to feedback that's sort of contrary to what they perceive as their equity and diversity efforts.
Mm-hmm. Do you know anything about the record that former Principal Coleman had at the school in terms of before this incident? Because I heard a pretty positive reputation.
She has not been disciplined, and certainly the district didn't tell me during the course of reporting that she's ever had any problems. I think that it seems clear to me that there must have been something somewhere that somebody didn't like, because it doesn't seem like the stuff at the staff convocation or other issues that were investigated sort of by themselves rise to the level of terminating somebody, which even though she resigned, this was a forced resignation. And it seems like if you really were somebody who was solid in the district, sort of supported by the district, there would have been more conversation than just, we received a complaint and now you're out of here.
Right. Something more feels like it has to have happened, or a blatant double standard. And I guess that's a frustrating thing to feel like there's maybe some opaqueness there. Do you feel like you were hitting up against any walls there in doing this reporting? Definitely.
When I asked to go off record with the district to be like, is there a missing link here? Is there some anecdote? I won't even print it. I won't report it. They ghosted and did not reply to that, which makes me feel like there probably was.
Is there anything else that surprised you in the reporting process of the story?
I was surprised when Principal Coleman reached out to me personally to say that the district decided to cut her pay for having gone on the record with me and given an interview with me. I thought that was really surprising and really unfortunate. It made me personally feel really awful about my job. Like I cost this person their sort of lifeblood here. And that was really surprising to me.
Because they had her kind of sign a statement that you won't say anything defamatory against the school. It's hard to not hear what one of the members who stepped down that you mentioned, one of them said, like, I feel like I'm being silenced on this board. They did silence her by having her sign that and then punishing her for talking with you.
She did not say anything defamatory about the district in our coverage or to me personally. She just said her side of the story.
Well, maybe we need to speak with her as well. Nicholas, we appreciate you so much for coming on. We've been really wanting to understand more. Is there anything else from the story that we're missing that you'd like to share?
Just that the community seems to be really supporting her. And it's been obviously quite an issue for the district to part ways with the principal just a month into the school year.
Well, we'll be following your reporting on this and your reporting in general, and we'll definitely link to your stories in our show note. We appreciate you so much. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Bianca.
That was Nicholas Garten, reporter for Madison 365, on the latest around the Sun Prairie East High School principal being forced to resign. And before we dive into any more news, let's take a quick break.
Ideal mesmo para o mundo atual seria fazer o ensino médio junto com o curso técnico, certo? É no Senac que o aluno tem autonomia de verdade, formação cidadã, foco na diversidade, preparação para o Enem, material didático sem taxas e muito mais. Na real, tem tudo que você precisa para se sentir preparado para a vida. Seja para entrar no mundo do trabalho ou te ajudar a decidir o que fazer na faculdade. Quer saber? Senac. Vem comigo! Acesse sp.senac.br/ensino-médio-técnico.
All right, we're here for the Friday News Roundup, here with Haley Sperling, our executive producer. Hey, Haley.
Hi, Bianca.
And Rob Thomas, our newsletter editor. What's good?
Happy Friday, Bianca.
Happy Friday. It really is a happy Friday. But as we know, there's some drama in the city. There's drama in our schools and drama on Common Council. And we're just talking about some workplace misconduct and how that was handled over in Sun Prairie. Now we're going to talk about it in the Common Council. Haley, you've got the story.
The biggest story right now on City Council is the arrest of District 18 Alder Charles Myadze. Early Thursday evening, Madison police arrested Myadze on multiple counts, including strangulation, false imprisonment, battery, and burglary. An MPD spokesperson told News 3 Now that Myadze will be in court today. And all of this is happening just days after City Council made the historic move to censure Myadze for, quote, conduct unbecoming of an alder. So if you'll recall, because we've been talking about this story since at least the spring, multiple women have come forward with varying levels of allegations against Myadze that range from sexual harassment in the workplace all the way to domestic violence in his personal life. And to be clear, Myadze has denied all of these allegations before we dig into this. And if you haven't heard about any of these stories, we actually did an interview, multiple people on this subject. So we'll be linking to those in our show notes so you can get caught up. To bring you up to speed on the news that happened this week, District 8 Alder MGR Govindarajan authored the measure to officially censure Myadze for conduct that is, quote, unbecoming of a alder person. And the final vote tally was 13 in favor, 2 opposed, and 2 abstentions. So it pretty much passed overwhelmingly. During the public comment period of the censure measure, more than a dozen people spoke out in favor of the resolution. 4 people spoke out against it, according to Madison 365 reporting. RCC Executive Director Dana Felibon, who you guys might remember ran for Dane County Executive earlier this year, had kind of a memorable moment when she said, quote, "It is reasonable that an alder is censured for unreasonable conduct displayed repeatedly to multiple people. They can't all be lying. This isn't Game of Thrones. He ain't that important, y'all." So she was one of the people who spoke out in favor of the resolution. On the flip side, we have Alder Isadore Knox, who spoke out against the resolution, saying, quote, "It is not our job to judge. citizens we represent, they judge, and they judge at the ballot box. So basically saying this issue should have been left up to voters. One quote that kind of stuck out to me came from Alder Nazra Rohaley. She did not sign on to the censure resolution and ultimately abstained from the vote. And she said, quote, "They say women are not believed. Yes, but Black men are also not believed," which I think this kind of highlights the reckoning that a lot of people have had to face in the wake of the Me Too movement, is that these issues contain multitudes, people contain multitudes, multiple things can be true at the same time, and it can be really hard to have these conversations, but it's also really important that we're having these conversations. So in terms of the censure, yes, it passed, but it's also pretty much a symbolic measure. There's no real action that comes with that, but this whole ordeal has yielded some real world consequences. So earlier this month, the mayor actually removed Myadze from his 5 committee appointments. And earlier this week, Myadze, who again, he represents parts of Madison's North Side, he told Madison 365 that he will not be seeking re-election in 2025. And so for reference, the committees and boards that he served on for the city included the Alcohol License Review Committee, the Board of Parks Commissioners, the Sister City Collaboration Committee, the Water Utility Board, and the Greater Madison Metropolitan Planning Organization. So some kind of important spots that he now won't have a voice in, which he's saying too is kind of a disservice to his constituents, which is also, again, multiple things can be true at once. So another development in this story that we've been watching for a while.
Man, it's a heavy one.
It
It's a
is.
really heavy one. And obviously, we've tried to be a part of reporting on this story. So definitely recommend folks listen to the conversations that we had.
And I think, like you said, Haley, like even if it's a symbolic resolution, like the fact that they had that conversation out in the open, I think, and all sides got to say their feelings on it, I think leads to a much better outcome than just that investigation, which was sort of strange and inconclusive in some ways. And and people didn't really know what to make of it in a lot of ways. So I think that's an absolute good to have that hard conversation out in public and give people the chance to fully air all sides. Because like you say, it's always more complicated than you think.
The goal of city government is to make our lives better. That was a really tough story. But governance continues. Ain't that the truth, Rob?
That's right. This one I think is, I'm going to slow down the podcast a little bit, literally to 20 miles an hour. This one I think is a positive one. And that's that the city of Madison is lowering the speed limits on residential streets that are now 25 miles an hour to 20 miles an hour, saying that there are clear safety benefits to driving slower, which I think has been borne out by all the evidence. The campaign is called 20 is Plenty, which is, sort of a catchy rhyme.
Nice.
And it's part of the city's Vision Zero Transportation Initiative, which basically is like trying to improve safety for everybody in the city, whether you're walking, you're driving, you're biking, you're riding the bus, reduce traffic deaths and serious injuries. And according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, pedestrian fatalities in the United States have increased by 84% between 2009 and 2022. So they want Madison to buck this national trend. And so, like I said, it's only going to affect streets that are 25 miles an hour. So it's just dropping 5 miles an hour reduction. This actually already started in phase 1 in 2021, when the city reduced the speed limit in the Tenny Lapham and Teresa Hammersley neighborhoods. Phase 2 will start this winter with updated signage, neighborhood by neighborhood, and will be completed by early 2025. So basically throughout the winter. So if you're not sure what your speed limit is on your street, basically when the sign's 25, it's 25. And when it's changed to 20, it's 20. It's pretty simple that way. And the city said lowering the speed limit by 5 miles an hour, it may not seem like much, but it reinforces the mindset that our neighborhoods are places to speed. So I think that mindset, that's a really important thing. Obviously they want people going 20 miles an hour, but I think even more important is just getting people thinking about the fact that, not to speed in these residential neighborhoods. I don't want to dox myself, but I live in a residential neighborhood that's the connector street for a lot of other residential streets to get to out of the neighborhood. And people are tearing by. It's like they don't think it's a residential street, but it really is. So I am all for the campaign. The one caveat I have is that it's called 20 is plenty, which is, like I said, very catchy. But like I pronounce it 20. I don't know if other people do that. So, in my head, it's the 20 for plenty campaign, which isn't as catchy. I don't think that'll catch on. But like aside from that, I think it's a great idea. What do you guys think? Do you think people will actually drive 20? You think they were driving 25 before?
Well, first off, I've got to not just leave your fun like wordplay discussion behind and the 20 versus 20. Because I think I say 20 as well, but you got to do a little twang for it.
20.
I don't know. Is that a Midwestern thing? I don't know. Yeah.
Twin.
I think it definitely is a Midwestern thing. 20.
Okay. Yeah.
that nasal, what have you. Oh my God. I'm not sure if I think people will completely follow this. Like, it's going to take some time, but like we did talk with transportation director Tom Lynch about this like in depth, and he mentioned that they were planning on moving towards 20 and that they've seen actually, even though, there's 25 miles per hour in East Washington, they've seen a dramatic decrease of people who are super speeders. So like we know people aren't driving 25 on East Washington, but they're no longer going 55, so the number of people driving 40 miles per hour or more, that's really declined. So I think in general it's going to bring the numbers down for who's really speeding. And I want to say I'm against this because I'm like 25 feels so slow, but we will get used to it. And I'm very for it being someone whose car was totaled on a busy street that is supposed to be 25 miles per hour and somebody crushed my beautiful baby. So yeah, I think people really wild out in these residential streets. It's just like, why? There are human beings and people's property that costs them lots of money. So I'm here for it.
I'm also here for it. Like you said, Bianca, are people actually going to go 20? Fingers crossed, hopefully, maybe. But like, I think it'll be just much, much fewer people going 40 in a 20, right? People just be a little bit more cognizant of the areas that they're in. And like, it's in residential areas, right? Like, you shouldn't be speeding around anyways. I hate when people tear down my street. I'm like, people live here, I'm like shaking my fist at the sky, and I don't know what it is about Madison, but people also just have a propensity for driving into buildings. And that is one of my biggest fears in the world, is having my apartment being driven into, which is like, not that outrageous of a fear because it has happened multiple times in the years that I've lived here. And so, if the speed limit is slower, hopefully if someone hits your building, it won't do as much damage. That's what I'm thinking about right now.
I mean, Mother Fools, Halong Bay, like beloved spots where it's like, can you guys help us? Somebody drove into our store.
Yes. And it just keeps happening. Like, stop doing that. Stop driving into buildings. I hate it. But yeah, hopefully people like going slower, fewer accidents. People will be more aware of what's going on in the streets, like it's important. And there are kids out and about in these residential areas too, classic like Johnny chasing after a ball, like look out for him,
Look out for Johnny.
Well, Johnny, I don't know.
Do it for Johnny,
no,
everybody.
Do it for Johnny. That's the new city slogan.
Yeah.
Speaking about people that we should be looking out for,
we are looking out for Santa Claus in these streets, y'all. We mentioned it. I mentioned this back, if you can remember, way back when in our December guide, I told you that on December 14th, there will be the annual Santa Cycle Rampage kicking off at Breeze Stevens Field. And the day has come. It's happening. December 14th is this weekend. And if you're into it, you can join all of these Christmas and holiday creatures for a 10-mile slow rolling holiday party on wheels. And so again, the event is put on by the Bike Fed and supports cycling education in Dane County and in Milwaukee as well. So super awesome. It's for a good cause. And if this weekend you see a bunch of people biking around in Santa outfits, this is what they're doing. They're doing it for a good cause. So shout out to the Santa Rampage. If there are any dreidels in the crowd, shout out to you specifically. Those are my people.
Yeah, I feel like those are like one of the coolest of that group. Like dressing up as a dreidel is like with all the, do you think they'll be lit up? I want to see the dreidels. I do.
And speaking of Santas, I know we talked about the Monroe Street Santas last week. Bianca, you finally got a chance to see them, I heard.
Yes. I was like, I'm going over to Monroe Street. And I just totally forgot that you said, you're going to see the Santas. And you passed Trader Joe's. And then all of a sudden I was in the residential part and they are out. They are so out. They are way more out than last year. I know. I believed you, of course, but I was like, this is real.
It's kind of insane.
And it was kind of a windy day, so half of them were kind of blown over. I don't know. But they definitely got a crew. They've got a squad over there, and I'm impressed. Impressed.
I was driving past, and it was a windy day as well. And there were two of them on opposite sides of a fence right next to each other. I swear it looked like they were gossiping together. Like they were just shaking back and forth. It was so funny. And I've seen them all the way down to like Tokay. So like it's expanding down Monroe Street. It's catching fire.
That's what I'm saying is that like this year it is catching fire. They've really gone all out. I think the last count that I saw, it was like more than 50 Santas are out there.
Oh
so
my gosh.
They're doing it. Their goal was to get to 100. They might get there by Christmas. Who knows? What would 100 Santas on Monroe Street look like? Like that would actually be perhaps a traffic hazard.
Well, congratulations to all of you who are taking part in that. We do hope maybe the rest of the city does some sort of, maybe different neighborhoods can have different bits.
Yes.
But it is beautiful when you see people join together behind community. And you know what? I'm going to do it one more time for our Friday News Roundup. We're on our year-end membership campaign. So if you want to join in, if you love the community spirit and you like hearing these sorts of stories, don't forget today is your last chance to support CityCast Madison and get that exclusive tote bag. So you can also be like a part of the squad wearing this stuff. So if you head to membership.citycast.fm to join us, we would so appreciate it.
Yes. And also shout out to everyone who is a member already. There are quite literally hundreds of you out there supporting us. And we appreciate you every single day because your support really means the world to us. And it helps us keep going. Like it is truly the wind in our sails every day. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you're thinking about becoming a member, head to membership.citycast.fm and join us.
Yes, I feel urged to sing, "You are the wind beneath my wings."
Yes.
All right. Thank you. We've done it once again for Friday News Roundup. Thank you for rounding up the news. Haley Sperling, executive producer. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Bianca.
And Rob Thomas, our wonderful newsletter editor. Thank you.
Thanks, Bianca.
That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, your host. This week, we're produced by Adam Sage and Dylan Brogan. Haley Sperling is our executive producer. Our theme music is by Carl Christensen. Rob Thomas is our newsletter editor. Don't forget, you can always get more news delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to Madison Minutes. Special thanks to the Black Like Me podcast, hosted by Reverend Dr. Alex G. and their entire team for sharing their 10th season kickoff live event audio with us. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this podcast with someone who likes tote bags that support organizations? Reminder that today is the last day of our end-of-year membership campaign. Become a CityCast Madison member to support journalism that connects us to our city. Go to membership.citycast.fm right now to join. If you're already a member, thank you. You make our work possible. See you back here Monday morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, take good care.